Which teams are going to make a bowl game for the 2025 college football season? Well, CBS Sports decided to release their projections for the bowl games this year, and in today's video, I want to talk about it. We're going to go through each and every projection for the 2025 bowl slots. I'm going to give my thoughts, and then also talk about some of the more underrated teams and matchups from it. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. So we're first going to start out with all the bowls that are not in the college football playoff, as the first two teams they have playing are UNLV and Washington in the Los Angeles Bowl. That's a bowl I hadn't really heard of, but Washington is getting a decent amount of hype in year 2 with Jedd Fisch and Demond Williams, and UNLV is in their first year under head coach Dan Mullen, and they have a couple of misfit players from other teams. That would be a really entertaining bowl game, and honestly, I think it could happen. In the Salute to Veterans Bowl, North Texas will be playing against Georgia Southern. I can't say I know much about either team, but I believe Eric Morris is still at North Texas. They had to find a new quarterback after Chandler Morris left, and Georgia Southern should be a decent team in the Sun Belt. Don't know much about it. Fresno State and Louisiana looks like they'll play in the Cure Bowl, and Fresno State lost their quarterback Mikey Keene over to Michigan, so they'll have to find a new guy. And then Louisiana is one of the top group of 5 teams every single year, and they have Walker Howard, the former 5-star quarterback from LSU and Ole Miss. So honestly, that would be pretty fun to watch, and I'd be rooting for the Cajuns. In the 68 Ventures Bowl, you'd have Central Michigan playing against West Virginia, which means the Mountaineers are projected to win 6 games in their first year under head coach Rich Rodriguez. Central Michigan is one of those teams that's usually in the middle of the MAC, and while that's probably not going to be the most exciting bowl matchup of the year, it would be an interesting game. In the Myrtle Beach Bowl, they're going somewhat bold as they have the Missouri State Bears playing against the Oregon State Beavers. This will be Missouri State's first year, and for them to make a bowl game would be absolutely insane. I do not think that'll happen, but I do think Oregon State will. Jonathan Bray is a good coach, and I like Malik Murphy a lot, and I'd pick the Beavers to win that one pretty easily. In the Gasparilla Bowl, the NC State Wolfpack would play against the Vanderbilt Commodores. NC State has one of the top returning young quarterbacks in the country in CJ Bailey, and David Doran is hoping to get back on track after an interesting couple of seasons. This is the most hyped Vanderbilt team I have ever seen, and Diego Pavia will be pumped up and ready to play in this one, no matter how good or bad the season goes for the Commodores. In the famous Idaho Potato Bowl, they have the Ohio Bobcats playing against the Colorado State Rams. This would be 2 green teams playing against each other, so that'd be a pretty cool uniform combo. But Parker Navarro leads the way for Ohio, who I think is the best quarterback in the MAC this year, and Colorado State is trying to rebuild some things after losing guys like Torrey Horton, and Jay Norvell seems to have them moving in the right direction, but I think Ohio is the better team in that one. In the Boca Raton Bowl, the USF Bulls will play against UConn, as both of these teams are near the top of the group of 5, as UConn had a good season last year, and Alex Golesh is building something down in Tampa. USF is hoping to become a Power 4 team at some point, and getting a win in a bowl game like this would definitely not hurt them. In the New Orleans Bowl, they project the Liberty Flames to play against James Madison, and these are definitely 2 of the top group of 5 teams as well. James Madison has arguably been the best over the last couple of years, and Liberty has been pretty dang good too. If Jamey Chadwell has a good enough season, he could probably leverage it into a Power 4 job, but this would definitely be must-see TV for me. In the Frisco Bowl, they expect the Houston Cougars to play against the San Jose State Spartans. San Jose State is getting a good amount of hype in the Mountain West this year, and Houston, I guess, is expected to have a good season in year 2 under Willie Fritz, and would win enough games to get to bowl eligibility. I expect Houston to maybe win 6 or 7 games max, and San Jose State to maybe win 8 or 9, so it'd be a good matchup. In the Hawaii Bowl, newsflash, they have the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors, who are trying to get things going under Timmy Chang. Western Kentucky is also one of the better group of 4 programs and sort of dominates in Conference USA. So this would probably be a game where there's a lot of points scored and nobody is really there to watch it. Still though, cool game. In the Game Above Sports Bowl, they'll have the Michigan State Spartans playing against the Toledo Rockets. Toledo is my second favorite team in the MAC behind Ohio, and they have also a good quarterback in Tucker Gleason, and Michigan State is sort of in an interesting spot. They need Aiden Childs to take the next step, but I also think Jonathan Smith is a good coach. They got some good portal weapons, and I think they should take the next step and probably win 6 or 7 games this year. That would be a really interesting matchup. In the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, they'll have the Baylor Bears and the Iowa Hawkeyes playing. This is an old-fashioned Big 12, Big 10 matchup, and both of these teams have a real chance of winning 9 games in my opinion. Baylor should finish in the top 4, and Iowa always finds a way to win 8 or 9 games anyways, so this would be definitely an intriguing game, and hopefully Iowa has a better offense this year. I mean, they got a great transfer from South Dakota State in Mark Gronowski. In the First Responder Bowl, they have the Cal Golden Bears playing against the Oklahoma State Cowboys, and this is an interesting one. Honestly, I would not expect either of these two teams to make a bowl game this year, as Cal has been pretty bad and Justin Wilcox is not a great coach, and Oklahoma State has a lot to rebuild and a lot to replenish. They have a new quarterback, are without Ollie Gordon, and are sort of a sinking ship. Cal lost pretty much everyone of note to the portal, so the fact these two are playing is kind of odd to me, but it'd definitely be cool to see. In the Military Bowl, the Pittsburgh Panthers would play against Army. Seems like every year Army plays against a Power 4 team in a bowl game now, and a couple of times they actually win, like they did against Mizzou a couple of years ago. Pittsburgh's definitely hoping to have a better season than ending up in that bowl game, as after starting 7-0 last year, they completely fell apart. We don't really know how good this Pitt team will be, but that would definitely be an interesting game that I would put Pitt on upset alert for. In the Pinstripe Bowl, it would be Virginia Tech versus Minnesota. These are two teams that I think are tier 2 in their respective conferences, as I think Virginia Tech is probably an 8-win team, and same with Minnesota. Minnesota has to break in a new starting quarterback in Drake Lindsey, but PJ Fleck always has things rolling in Minneapolis, and I guess they're assuming that Brent Pry takes the next step, saves his job, and Kyron Jones is pretty good. To me, I'd have that game circled to watch in bowl season, and that'd be fun. In the Fenway Bowl, they're having the Syracuse Orange play against the Navy Midshipmen. That is the second military school on the list, and Syracuse, I guess they're assuming, is going to have a good year 2 under Fran Brown. Syracuse lost pretty much everyone of note in terms of their skill players, but I guess there's a lot of faith in some of the guys they have coming in. Navy always seems to win 6 or 7 games regardless, so of course they're going to be in a bowl game. In the Pop-Tarts Bowl, they're going to have the SMU Mustangs versus the Iowa State Cyclones. Iowa State is supposed to be near the top of the Big 12, and SMU is supposed to be near the top of the ACC. I think this would be definitely a good matchup, and it would definitely be a good battle between some good quarterbacks. Rocco Becht will be back for Iowa State, and Kevin Jennings will be back for SMU, and both of these teams are hoping to make a college football playoff run, so I'm sure they'd be a little upset that they instead have to play in front of a Pop-Tarts mascot. In the Arizona Bowl, we will have our third military school on the list in Air Force, and they'll be playing against Buffalo out of the MAC. I don't know much about Air Force, but Coach Calhoun always has them competitive, and Buffalo brought in Taquan Roberson and is hoping to get back on track, and this would be an interesting game against two teams that probably win 6 games. In the New Mexico Bowl, Utah State will face off with East Carolina, and Utah State just got Bronco Mendenhall, who I guess you could say somewhat did well at New Mexico last year, but they have to break in a new starting quarterback, and East Carolina is just one of your average teams that always seems to win 7 games as well, so that game would be interesting. In the Gator Bowl, you'll have Bill Belichick and the North Carolina Tar Heels facing off against Billy Napier and the Florida Gators. This would definitely draw a lot of eyeballs, as it'd be one of the most intriguing bowl games we've seen in a couple of years. But I don't know what to make of these teams. North Carolina has Gio Lopez at quarterback, who transferred in from South Alabama, and Florida has DJ Lagway, who can't seem to stay healthy. Honestly, we don't know much about either of these two teams, and we'll see if they can both even make a bowl game by the time the year is over. In the Texas Bowl, you'll have TCU versus Texas A&M, and I honestly cannot remember the last time these two teams played. TCU has one of the best quarterbacks in the country in Josh Hoover, who had a ton of yards last year, and then Texas A&M, on the other hand, has a new full-time starter in Marcel Reed, as he started a couple of games last year. I believe both of these teams are supposed to win about 8 or 9 games, so that'd be a very interesting matchup. In the Birmingham Bowl, you'll have the Florida State Seminoles versus the Ole Miss Rebels, and they are assuming a lot here. They're assuming that Florida State figures out all the nonsense that happened last year, and they're banking on Tommy Castellanos being really good at quarterback. They're also banking on Ole Miss replacing a lot of their top weapons from last year, Austin Simmons doing well, and the defense reloading. I think both of these teams are slightly overrated going into the 2025 college football season, but it would definitely be a really fun bowl matchup to watch, and I think at least one of them will end up doing really well this year. In the Independence Bowl, you'll have Tulane versus Utah, as Tulane's one of the top group of 5 programs each and every year now, and they're led by their new quarterback Jake Retzloff from BYU. Utah also has a new quarterback, as they will have Devon Dampier from New Mexico. They bring back a ton of offensive line starters, and many are thinking that Utah totally bounces back. Tulane is probably a 10 or 11 win team this year, and Utah could probably win 8 or 9. So this would be a really good matchup, and Tulane would honestly have a real chance at pulling off an upset. In the Music City Bowl, the Indiana Hoosiers would face off with the Auburn Tigers, and that one would be a lot of fun. Indiana fans are hoping they didn't have a fluke year in year 1 under Curt Cignetti, as they brought in Fernando Mendoza, bring back some of their most talented players, and honestly I think should win 8 or 9 games again. Auburn is hoping to get to a bowl game after the Hugh Freeze experiment has been sort of so far, and if Auburn really actually does make a bowl to me, it'll be a little bit of a miracle, but I would pick Indiana to win that one. In the Alamo Bowl, we'll have the BYU Cougars versus Arizona State. I'm not sure why these two teams would play again, but we saw it with Colorado last year, as BYU has to find a new quarterback after Retzloff went to Tulane, but they typically have a good culture, so they'll probably be fine. And Arizona State returns the top quarterback in the conference in Sam Leavitt, their top receiver in Jordan Tyson, and Kenny Dillingham seemingly is building something special. Arizona State fans would not be happy to be in this bowl game, as they're hoping to go back to the playoff, but it would be a good game. In the RollerQuest Bowl, you'll have the Nebraska Cornhuskers versus the South Carolina Gamecocks. These are two teams that I also think are slightly overrated going into the season, but they don't lack star talent. Dylan Raiola versus Lenoris Sellers would be a lot of fun to watch, but in my opinion, there's no way Lenoris actually plays in the game, because he'll declare for the 2026 NFL Draft. Nebraska needs to find a way to win 7 or 8 games this year, and if South Carolina can win 8 or 9, that would also be very successful for them. In the Sun Bowl, you'll have the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets versus the Washington State Cougars, as this used to be a Power 4 matchup, but not anymore. Haynes King will be playing his last hoorah for the Jackets, and Washington State will be coming off hopefully another successful season. That'd be a good game to watch. In the Citrus Bowl, they're having a rematch of Michigan versus Oklahoma, as these two teams play in Week 2 in Norman, and this time they'd play in Orlando. Michigan, I think, will be pretty solid, as they have a star freshman quarterback in Bryce Underwood, and Oklahoma got arguably the top quarterback in the portal in John Mateer. I don't think Mateer will be playing in the game because he'll be declaring for the 2026 NFL Draft, but I guess we'll get to see the backup. In the Las Vegas Bowl, they have the Illinois Fighting Illini playing against the UCLA Bruins. This will be another interconference game, as the Illini return Luke Altmaier, who will probably be playing in his final game, and UCLA has Nico Imaliava. Depending on how Nico does, maybe he'll declare for the draft, but I don't know. That game would definitely be interesting, but I don't know if I see UCLA actually making a bowl game this year. In the Armed Forces Bowl, they'll have the Memphis Tigers versus the Kansas Jayhawks, as Memphis is breaking in a new quarterback in Brendan Lewis, who's on his 6th year, and Kansas also has another one of those 6th-year guys in Jalen Daniels, who's been around for quite some time. I guess in this case, they have Memphis as the second team left out of the college football playoff in the group of 5, and Kansas they have making a bowl game after missing one last year. In the Liberty Bowl, they have the Kansas State Wildcats versus the Tennessee Volunteers, and this would be a really fun game. Avery Johnson versus Joey Aguilar, and two coaches that have been remarkably consistent lately. Chris Kleiman and Josh Heupel continually have their programs competitive, and I'm honestly not sure who I would pick to win in that game. In the Duke's Mayo Bowl, you'll have the Louisville Cardinals versus the Missouri Tigers. Missouri has a pretty easy schedule this year, as they're breaking in a new quarterback, running back, and receiver group, and Louisville and Jeff Brom will bring in their 3rd straight transfer in Miller Moss from USC. Both these teams are probably 9-win teams, and I don't know who I'd pick to win that one. In the Bahamas Bowl, you'll have Miami of Ohio versus Louisiana Tech. I can't say I know much about either of these teams, but Miami of Ohio brings in MAC quarterback legend DeQuan Finn, who is a star at Toledo, and Louisiana Tech, I'm not honestly sure who they have. I'd probably pick Miami of Ohio to win, and then for our last bowl game before the playoff, we'll talk about Duke and USC. Duke went out and got a $9 million quarterback in Darian Mensah from Tulane, and USC brings back Jaden Mayava, who started the back half of last season. Honestly, I'm not that sure if USC is going to be all that good this year, and same with Duke, but it would definitely be a fun game to watch. Okay, so for the college football playoff, in the 5 versus 12, they have the Notre Dame Fighting Irish and the LSU Tigers. There'd be a lot of star talent in that game with Jeremiah Love and Garrett Nussmeier, and I'd probably honestly pick the Fighting Irish to win that one, but LSU would make it close. In the 7-10, they have Oregon versus Georgia, which is a rematch from that 2022 Week 1 opener, which was absolutely horrible, and Oregon has to figure a couple things out. They need to see if Dante Moore actually becomes the guy, and they also need a guy to throw passes to. Georgia is also breaking in a new quarterback in Gunnar Stockton, but they're typically fine, and I would pick the Bulldogs to win that one. In the 8-9 game, they have the Miami Hurricanes taking on the Texas Tech Red Raiders, and I don't know about that. I think Miami is decent, but I might pick them to finish 3rd in the conference. I don't know. Texas Tech winning the Big 12 would definitely be somewhat of a shocker to me, as they lost 2 of their top 3 skill players last year in Josh Kelly and Taj Brooks, but they are getting a ton of hype. In that particular matchup, I would pick the Canes to win, but I'm not sure either of those teams actually make the playoff when it's all said and done. In the 11-6 game, you'll have the Alabama Crimson Tide taking on Boise State, and while I think Alabama probably gets back to the playoff, I don't know about Boise. Ashton Jeanty really did sort of feel like Boise State's whole team, and just replacing a guy like that is going to be difficult. I also think another team like Memphis or Tulane sneaks up and passes them, but who knows? If they make it back, that's kind of cool, but I'm picking Bama. And for the final 4 seeds, they have Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, and Clemson. That is honestly pretty standard, and the only thing I would personally change is I would put Georgia instead of Texas there, but again, what do I know? This is also just a CBS Sports projection, and what do you guys think? What were the most interesting matchups? Who will and won't make a bowl game? And what's your playoff prediction for this season? Be sure to let me know down below, leave a like if you want to support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out one of the videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.